Hi there, it's Kute here, sending you much love wherever you are around the world right now. In today's short video blog, I'm going to talk a bit about how to be a powerful communicator. How do you communicate powerfully? So often I hear people say, Kute, when I speak to people, people don't understand me. Kute, when I get in front of powerful people, I just kind of like lose my mind. I go blank. I'm not sure. When I go to have a difficult conversation, I'm not sure what to say. I lose myself. Things become a blur. So how do you really communicate powerfully and clearly in a way that people get and understand what you're saying? Your ability to communicate will determine and impact the quality of your life. Your ability to communicate what you really feel will determine your experience and co-create your reality. So when you think about how you communicate, how do you communicate? When you think about how you communicate, are you an effective communicator? Are you an efficient communicator? Is your communication truly landing in such a way that people understand what you have to say? There are a few simple keys. One of the most profound lessons I learned many years ago as a communicator, to be a powerful communicator, one of the super powerful keys I learned was this. I'm not saying it's the truth, but it's a reality that I invite you to try on and adopt. The meaning of your communication is the response that you get. Let me repeat that. The meaning of your communication is the response that you get. That means if someone responds to you as a result of your communication and it's not quite what you meant, think again. Don't blame that person. Don't make that person wrong. What that person got from your communication really was the meaning of your communication. So what that does is it doesn't make the person responsible for receiving your communication in a certain way. It makes you responsible for being truly clear in communicating in a way where there's no mistake. It puts the responsibility on you. So if you want to be a really profound communicator, number one, you must take responsibility for your communication and not make the other person who's listening responsible for your communication. It's a reality shift as a leader that you have to make if you want to be a super powerful communicator. You are the one, it's my book, you are the one responsible for your communication. So check this. When you have something really important to say, when you have something really clear that you want to communicate, what's important is before you have your communication with another person, before you have that conversation, that what might be a challenging or difficult conversation, and Lord knows communication can get messy where people think you said something and then all of a sudden they're upset for weeks, and then you realize, wait a second, when you actually have another communication, you realize that's not what I said, that's not what I meant, but what they thought you meant was something completely different. Right? So before you have a communication, many times we go into a communication, we're in a terrible state of mind, we just go into a communication and we just vomit ourselves in the communication, right? You may have done that. Maybe you've had the experience of being vomited on. You just vomit yourself on the other person, and of course they're not going to necessarily truly understand what you're saying, because that person, another person is a human being with their stories, with their conditioning, and so now they have to process your vomit, they have to process what you said, even if it was accurate, but especially if what you said wasn't clear, that person has to process what you said through their own conditioning and filters and stories, and then it has to land. That's like playing the lottery. And so before you communicate, what you can do to increase the chances that your communication is gotten is, first and foremost, it starts with yourself. Number one, take responsibility for your communication. Take responsibility for your communication landing. Number two, I feel what's really important is to center yourself. Many times we communicate and we're not centered in ourselves, we're not clear, and from this unclarity we're trying to have the other person be clear, but we're not clear within ourselves what the hell we're trying to say. So really center yourself, connect with your heart, and get really clear. Become still, become quiet, become silent, breathe, go beyond the mind, go underneath the feelings, and really connect with what is it? What is the true essence of what I want to communicate? And from that clarity, get clear. What is the outcome that you're wanting from the communication? Right? What is the outcome that you want from the communication? Then, before you blurt out what you say before you just start communicating. What's also important is that before you communicate to that person what you actually want to say, let that person know, especially if it's a challenging conversation, like, something's not working for me, or what you're doing is not quite really working for me. Make sure you communicate with that person your intention for the communication. Many times we say, okay, I'm finally going to share how I feel with this person. We just go, rah, and we share how we feel. And have you ever had the experience where the person gets a little defensive? They feel hurt. They feel attacked. They feel not enough. They take it personally. And now they get on the defensive and they attack back, or they're not receptive. When you create a context for the communication, so that they can understand where you are coming from, it creates a space for the other person to be more receptive to listening to what you have to say, and that sets it up where they are much more able to hear and listen to the communication that you're about to deliver. So don't just deliver the communication, create the context. And, as an example, an intention. Hey, you might say to your friend, hey, John or Susie, or hey, Kute, or hey, Mary, the reason I'm about to share what I'm about to share is because I care about the relationship, is because I really love you, is because I want this relationship to work, is because I want to deepen our friendship. And I just need to share some challenging things, but the reason, my intention, is because I love you. So it's important to share your intention for the communication first before you deliver the communication itself. Once you've delivered the communication, make sure you make sure you deliver it. You deliver it in a way that you are not pointing the finger at the other person, but make sure you deliver the communication in a way where you're taking full ownership and responsibility, and you are owning how you feel. This is how I feel. This is how my experience. This is what is going on for me. Many times when people deliver a communication or they express something to another person, they say, you do this, or you do that, or you don't do this, or you make me feel that way. Or, look, no one can make you feel any way. Let's get this straight. No one can make you feel any way. No one has the power over you. No one is responsible for how you feel. So when you say, well, you do this, or you're this way, or you're mean, or you're that way, that's not reality. That's your story. That's your story that you're projecting onto that person. A story is not reality. And when you communicate story to story, and they make up a story about your story, now you're both stuck in stories, and it doesn't go anywhere. But when you can say, look, when you do X, I feel hurt. Because here's the deal. Whether they agree with you or not, you have a right. Hear me. You have a right to feel how you feel, even if it's not correct, even if it's not what happened, even if it's not truth. You still have a right to feel how you feel. So when you communicate in a way where you are taking full responsibility and ownership for, this is how I feel, when you do that. If the other person starts saying, well, no. You have a right to feel how you feel. They have a right to feel how they feel. And then you're not projecting what is your story as a reality onto the other person. Because they can't really argue with how you feel it's your feeling. So take ownership for that feeling, and then communicate authentically, with love, with compassion, with sensitivity, with care. Look, here's the deal. We're all born, we all get conditioned. With each and every one of us, 7.5 billion people on the planet, we've all been through so much pain. We've all been through hurt. Many of us have been through trauma and abuse and neglect and abandonment. And we've gotten so hurt as children. And so I think it's amazing as human beings that we get to grow up and somehow we are functional. We are walking around and we're not killing each other. So I think that as humanity we're doing pretty amazingly. So the fact that you have an opportunity to communicate with another person, the fact you have an opportunity to communicate with another soul, another human being, is recognize that it is a privilege, recognize that it is an honor. And from that place, Communicate with love. Communicate with compassion. Communicate what you need to communicate with tenderness and care, knowing that inside of that person, maybe they're a big tough guy, maybe they're a tough person, maybe they're a tough woman, maybe you think, oh, they never feel anything. Inside of that person is at the core. At the core of each human being is a deep sensitivity, a deep tenderness. Inside of every single human being is that child that needs to be loved and cherished and is deeply sensitive. So communicate with love, communicate with care, communicate with that sensitivity, recognizing the true essence of who another is, and then let go. Then once you've communicated what you need to communicate, create the space to allow that person to digest. Don't communicate needing a response. One of the deepest challenges when you communicate needing a response, or you communicate in a way to get a response or get a certain response, you communicate so that they'll respond in a certain way. When you can communicate and let go, communicating without attachment to their response, communicating without attachment to how they're going to respond, you communicate to communicate ultimately for your own freedom, ultimately for your own self. Then you allow that person to have their experience and digest. Once you've done that, no matter how that person responds, you know within yourself, you can have peace within yourself and know that you've done everything in your power to communicate authentically. You've done everything in your power to communicate your truth with care, with love, with sensitivity. And ultimately, this is all you can do. The quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your communication, how you communicate with others, but also how you communicate with yourself. So I say, let's be kind with ourselves. Let's be kind in our communication with others. Communicate with clarity and see your life transform profoundly. Folks, if you enjoyed this video blog, please do share it with those in your life. Share it on social media. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my blog. You'll receive daily, weekly inspiration to your inbox and special notification about live events. Love now.